Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a return of the podcast with more of a Joe Rogan format, only worse editing, which is no editing. And today I have a special guest of, person who kind of helps run the dorm I live at. Introduce yourself, Jacob G.
My name's Jacob, and it's my name. And today we're going to be talking about Vice. Just got back from seeing it on Christmas Day. Pretty impressive movie. Don't want to get into it too much, but I'll pass it back over here to David.
Anyways, let me set the table for a few things. A, there's going to be major spoiler warnings, so if you did not go and watch this yet, I would suggest you avoid it. Feel free to leave likes, of course, but I would suggest refraining from playing the whole video until you're done watching Vice. Second, the reason why this new podcast is going about is because I'm fucking sick and tired. YouTube denied my monetization, and I am pissed. And here's the thing. I'm going to also address this in an actual video, in an actual traditional format that my channel has been known for. But let's just say there's a new era coming soon. And that new era will, have things like, my 1,000 subscriber specials, and a podcast like this. Podcasts like these. I'll try to have like one or two special guests, and we'll break things down. So, with that, I will be doing less censorship of myself. I'm going to be more brash, more arrogant, more bro, obnoxious type like I actually am. Which, I'll still have my heartfelt stuff and my dedication to the games and anime I'm a fan of, but I'm just tired of being restricted by YouTube, so we're going to talk about Vice. Last but not least, I gotta frame the base idea behind this entire movie. Oh, and one last thing, I'm considering working on a mixed media awards show, because I'm tired of all the awards shows being bland and flaccid as fuck. Seriously, no mention of Assassin's Creed Odyssey in the Game Awards 2018, even though it is, in my opinion, Game of the Year. And I know Crunchyroll's going to botch their anime awards for the third fucking year in a row. So, I'm going to frame that. I'm going to do things like podcasts, fake award shows, actual anime and movie reviews, probably through podcasting style. One last thing, when we were at the movies, there was one or two movies that caught my eye, but I think the most prevalent is the movie Us. And it's kind of an interesting idea, because it's a commentary about basically you killing your negative sides and your negative aspects and how crazy people can be on the inside. So I'm actually looking forward to that movie as well.
Side note, you've seen the movie Get Out, correct?
No.
By Jordan Peele?
No.
Oh, well, you gotta watch that, because I just was in the back room and I saw the previews for his next movie coming out. It looks incredible, like way creepier than Get Out.
Well, Us looks phenomenal. You were gone for most of that trailer.
I didn't get to see that.
You fucking missed it. It stood out so well. I used to be into horror, but Saw 3D kind of just killed it. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually looking forward to I'm looking forward to Us, which is strange because I rarely look forward to movies.
Right.
And I don't even watch TV shows.
Is that the one that has like split and all of the other characters in it?
No, it's just
literally. I know what you're talking about.
They basically met some creepy dude on the beach, and the dude, I believe, conjured up these creepy people. Basically, they came up with this like Bray Wyatt looking guy with like the creepy ass long trench coat jacket at the beach, and then all of a sudden they meet like their evil selves, or like this weird evil reflection kind of cultish look, and like one of the kids are like this really creepy like monster thing with like a mask that's really meant to terrify.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to what that movie might entail.
Sounds pretty good.
With that being framed, let's actually get into the review, shall we?
Yeah. So, first of all, what did you think about the overall tone of the movie? Did you think it came across liberal from a liberal perspective, or did you think it was unbiased?
Well, normally I'm the guy asking questions, but I'll gladly answer that. And I think there's actually no bias in this movie.
Yeah.
even at the terrible ending, which we'll get to. But the way it was written was almost a masterclass, because it portrayed Dick Cheney in the dichotomous nature, because it separates his personal life from his professional life. And what I really noticed about that, what really fascinated me, is that on his professional life, he's this egotistical villain. And it's played very well throughout the story. But in his personal life, he seems one of the most compassionate human beings I've ever actually met, which was very surprising. So it does, that sort of interesting, intelligent portrayal did not lend any bias, left or right leaning, which was actually appealing. But here's where things get interesting. The connection between this dichotomy is his intellect. Remember, and this is verified through the meetings he had with George W. Bush. Remember this, because with George W. Bush, he was very tactical, he was very intelligent, he was very slimy, he was trying to play the system a bit.
Right.
And the cool thing is it kind of gave perspective a bit, because his style of tactics was because he hated, one of the main themes behind the story was he hated the idea of the vice president, because until he took charge and redefined the vice presidency, it was, as he put it, a nothing job.
Right.
It was just a symbolic position. But the way it was spun was so brilliant that soon the presidency almost became weaker to the vice president, because the vice president functions kind of like a ghost. Like, think of Ghost Recon's Ultimate Commander. That would be what I would describe his almost coup d'etat-like redefinement of vice president. And not only that, but he helped enable war powers and almost absolute executive action. It was the utilitarian executive theory. That was a huge overcurrent.
Yeah.
But there is another, in that weird, not only was there that weird master class, but, not only was those things connected, but in the end, there was a huge payoff on the end before the ending credits. We'll get into that later. But at the same time, it was kind of ruined by the after credits scene, but we'll get to that. And what really surprised me was how sympathetic in his personal life both he and his wife are. Yeah. I mean, yes, it seemed a bit tropey, but that was kind of how the 60s, 50s through 80s were. Like, it was those tropes were very close to reality. And, because these tropes were close to reality, it was a perfect portrayal of both feminine roles and masculine roles in traditional society.
Right.
So that was also accurate. On the sake of accuracy, I'm not gonna lie, every single person was spot on.
Yeah.
Absolutely spot on. But going back to the question of bias, I don't think it was. Because, and this is verified by the very dichotomy that I mentioned, if it was liberal bias, Dick Cheney wouldn't be portrayed as this sympathetic character in his personal life, but if it was a conservative bias, he would be hailed as a hero in his professional. But the way it was set up and the dichotomy was not only accurate, it was also down the middle.
Right.
It was very centrist, and the only left-leaning ideology that could probably be lent to here is the classical liberal. And people who don't know what classical liberals are the people who believe in the ultimate sense of individuality through liberty. And this was only further solidified in the movie with the daughter of the lesbian daughter of Dick Cheney. Because if it was conservative bias...
Spoiler alert.
I framed it at the beginning for the spoilers.
Right.
If they go any further, that's their own fault.
True.
But interesting enough, they had an opportunity to be biased. But honestly, the reason why Dick Cheney is so humanized here is because he's shown as a family man. Not only did he change his own life so he could get his wife out of the abusive home, but he also said to his daughter, despite being a lesbian, he took the parental role. And it's this very parental role that solidifies him as this human character.
Right.
And it really... And the payoff, all of that is well done in the end. But there's one other subtle undercurrent compared to the other undercurrent. And here's where things get really interesting. Because here's the thing. There's this narrator guy. And this entire time, this narrator guy serves as either a disembodied voice or when he's with his family.
And the narrator is Todd from Breaking Bad, for those of you that have seen that.
I've never seen that. Oh my god. Don't ruin Breaking Bad for me. I hated the dude's role in the entire movie.
Right.
His face is served in like 3 different roles. One in the family home, one in more of a domestic public, and one as a soldier.
Yeah.
And all of it is done to suit a further narrative. Which, to be fair, is done in a masterclass. Almost. It was done so well because even though you don't really care for the guy, the one thing that poses in your mind, it's like, what is it? He specifically says that he's somewhat related to Dick Cheney in the beginning.
Yeah, that's how he opens up.
But at the same time, you can clearly tell there is no physical or emotional connection.
Right.
But here's where things get interesting. Near the end, it turns out that the narrator the entire time is actually the guy who donated the heart to keep Dick Cheney alive.
Yeah. Guy died getting hit. He got hit by a car when he was out jogging, and then next thing you know, his heart's getting put in Dick Cheney.
Yeah, and
kind of comes
he I like how he framed it. Also, he's like something along the lines of, he doesn't phrase that as someone else's heart being given to him. He phrases it as his own heart. And I honestly, I feel that's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And that actually made me chuckle a bit. There was a lot of scenes that made me chuckle a bit.
Same here, yeah.
But I think the thing that makes me chuckle the most is the accurate portrayal.
Mm-hmm. I think, just touching on that a little bit, one of my favorite parts was when it shows Cheney when he was on the hunting trip and he shot the guy. And then it said to this day Dick Cheney is still not issued an apology, but it showed a video of the guy that got shot by Dick Cheney apologizing to Dick Cheney and his family for all the problems.
See, I love that. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie too. And it was so solidified because this was part of what solidified him as a villain. And that's what really fascinated me, though, because his personal life was so involved in a humanitarian light.
Right.
This is why I don't believe it's right or left, and the closest left ideology I can think of is classical liberal, which I don't consider it left, right, or centrist. It's just this above tier.
Yeah.
But here's where things really pay off. In the ending before the credits, because there's 2 sort of endings to it. An ending before the credits and an ending after the credits. The ending before the credits was absolutely perfect, because the entire time you have 2 main narratives. The personal hero life and the horrific villainous professional life. But here's where it really solidifies me to the end. There's this massive soliloquy from the guy who plays Dick Cheney. And it is what I would call the cold-blooded hero subtrope. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Question: what do you think of that cold-blooded hero, almost anti-hero subtrope?
Because I get what you're saying, because the whole movie he's portrayed, and it's factual, like the way he would go behind Bush's back to do everything, and the way he was playing the system. Scalia, when it brought in Anthony Scalia.
Oh god, that was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorate serious characters.
Right.
One of my favorite comedy characters was what's his name? The guy played by Steve Carell. I keep forgetting.
Rumsfeld.
Donald Rumsfeld. And that was a great comedy character, but I'd say my favorite would be comedy-wise, W. Bush.
Yeah, George W. Bush was. There was a couple parts where George W. Bush said some stupid things that you're like, okay, I don't know if George Bush was that dumb.
I don't agree on that. I actually
Really?
think I think he's a guy who's known for saying dumb stuff, but for being intelligent away from the camera.
My favorite thing about George Bush is when he talks about, like, terrorizers. There are people out in the world. It's terrorizers.
It's so accurate, too. It's so fucking accurate. Oh my god. I think it was an actual speech. Oh,
Yeah.
That's another brilliant piece of storytelling was the cinematography behind it.
Yeah.
The way they mixed like the modern, movie cinematography with actual footage was very well done.
Yeah.
But there's a few things that really killed this movie for me, and it went from like one of the stuff took it down to like an 8.0 to 8.5, and that was irrelevant imagery for shock value. Sound direction was a little off because they would have explosions or very loud cuts to draw your attention. And last but not least was the way the narrator ended his role in the story. A few of those things kind of kicked me out of it, took away from the immersion. But, I think that's just me minor nitpicking. That's why it went from like a 9 or a 9.5 to an 8 or 8.5.
Right.
But after all of that, we come to the actual ending. And we kind of wish that we didn't follow my trope knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I know enough about trope knowledge that there's a lot of movies who do after credit cutscenes. And here's where I really, really cringed. And this is it's not even good cringe. It's ham-fisted, unnecessary cringe. It was like, what did you think of the like over-aggrandized stereotypes at the end?
I think it was them trying to be funny. And I think some people in the audience found it funny because we were sitting in the front row and I could hear people behind us kind of giggling, kind of laughing when it came to that part. And I don't know if it's just my stance on politics and everything that made me not enjoy that last part. I don't know what it was, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It kind of...
Yeah.
So to let people kind of know what was going on, throughout in the middle to towards later part of the movie, they were showing a focus group where they were talking to people in a focus group and saying, like trying to figure out what people's stance was on going into the Iraq War or fighting Al-Qaeda. And they were saying that they didn't understand it, like who is Al-Qaeda, and basically they came to the understanding from this focus group that it would make the general public would support the war and have more understanding for it if there was a country attached to it to go fight. And so that's how they got to Iraq. And then at the end, after the credits were going, it goes back to that focus group, same members of the focus group, and they're talking, and they go, there's just one, the guy that played the stereotypical Republican in it goes, this movie seemed so liberal the whole time, or something like that. And then there's bickering back and forth, and
one of them's one of them said that I bet you really wanted Hillary in office. It's like, well, Hillary's not president. You voted in for that orange cheetah.
Right. And I don't know. That part kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
And you know what? I think a lot of the giggling wasn't like, enjoyment giggling. I think it was like that weird, like, oh.
Like almost uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like...
it was not uncomfortable, a little peculiar, a little bizarre, and it was kind of that, it's sort of funny because of the stereotypes.
Right.
But I think, here's the thing. I think they should have switched the last scene with Dick Cheney's soliloquy with that focus group.
Yeah.
It might have actually solidified a perspective and maybe even raised my score back from an 8.5 to like a 9 or a 9.5. But what confused me about the direction was the way the last scenes were originated. And here's the thing: the first part of the focus group was brilliant. Wouldn't you say it was brilliant? Because I felt like it was it was a brilliant reflection upon the current populace of the country.
Right.
It was a reflection of the fact that the people may not always be right. You know, and it's a hard pill to swallow.
But it shows that the people are just people.
You know, people are corrupt.
Yeah.
You know, it is in their human nature. They want a legitimate thing to blame.
Right.
Like, they said, like, they asked very well, like, if, you know, these people, this organization were a country, would you be more in favor of attacking them because of them being a threat? And it went from, like, one hand being raised to almost all the hands being raised. It was a reflection on the corrupt populace and how the current populace is just run by victim stance fallacy. Like, I know I'm already looking at you and you're kind of like, I hate it when he goes into these tangents.
Keep going up.
But,
I just keep looking at myself in here and thinking, God damn, my head is big. That's all I keep
dude,
thinking.
I have a fucking chrome dome, I don't care.
We look like we could be brothers almost.
Yeah, in a weird way. I mean, we're only like a couple months apart.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to what I was saying is that, you know, we live in a country where, you know, we're a lot of people and a lot of secular groups on both sides are riddled with victim stance fallacy, and the only reason why I associate with the right, despite being classical liberal, in, you know, in my goal, it's because of the community online that I've met. Mm-hmm. My experience, because I was one of the founding fathers of what is known as the LGBTQ plus political movement. Guys like myself and guys like Eric Duval Winsher, which is a close associate of mine, who is, I believe you phrased it as bisexual romantic. So already you can tell he's pure blood of that, you know, community through and through, because that is a very distinct trait. Because those hardcore members of the community will separate themselves from their sexuality, from their romantic interests.
Right.
You know, it's a common person wouldn't separate the two, because the general instinctual understanding, the understanding of society, is that they're one and the same.
I've met Eric. He seems like a very reasonable, nice person. I liked him.
And honestly, that's what really matters here.
Yeah.
It's that same nice person kind of mentality, though, because I got booted out of that community. I got booted out of that community around 2015, early 2016.
For what?
Remember how I was telling you about that issue about the trans people, and how I was trying to argue about how the right way to build the movement would be to build up new people instead of promoting transgender celebrities?
Right.
Like, you shouldn't build a franchise off of already well-established celebrities.
Right.
If you want to paint a picture of your organization as heroes, you need to pick out the small man, the small person. You know? And you know, disagreements over that led to me basically being terminated from the group. I had to leave. I was told to leave, basically, because they said I was too toxic and they wanted me out. You know, here's the thing. I called in personal favors. My old man was a guy who was a computer tech guy. When he would train in Atlanta, he would work in all the Target stores and all the major retailers on their, you know, computer hardware. He would build supercomputers out of scratch parts. He was a fucking awesome dude. And a bitter loss of him kind of shaped who I am as an adult. But at the same time, I knew this, and I called in personal favors. Normally, I don't use my real name, but I usually run online under complete pseudonyms, and I run under so many that my real name could be just considered a pseudonym in general. It makes me the ghost. I am what you would call a ghost manipulator, because here's the thing. I took my involvement in that, and I called in those favors to protest the HB2 law. But when I was kicked out, I turned that, because if they had kept me in for like 3 to 4 months longer, I could have painted them that instead of these unreasonable authoritarian tyrants, that they're just people desperate at the end of their rope. However, I'm not going to judge the entire community based on these psychotic asshats who have taken over that community.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to go back as their tactician, because until those kinds of people are ousted, which they're not, because people on both sides are enablers, I'm not going to do so. Sorry, I get political, but this is building to a point.
Yeah.
Then I switched over to the right. But I'm not right as a political stance. And I wasn't even a guy who put Trump in office, because I used that very little notion that I just told you about.
Right.
And I used it to fuel the negative environment between the election with Hillary and Trump. Because, the Democrats had the opportunity to win against Trump. Because Bernie Sanders at the time was portrayed as this awesome humanitarian guy that could please absolutely everyone and defy the standard.
Right.
But because of, urban gerrymandering, he kind of got fucked over. Which in turn fucked them over. Because with Bernie, you could have had a reverse Al Gore George W. Bush situation where, the Al Gore would actually win over the George W. Bush. But because they picked the Hillary Clinton, who is notorious for a lot of evil doings, including Benghazi,
The worst presidential candidate maybe of all time.
and the fact that I had manipulated both sides into that negative environment that led to Trump's election, you could presume me to be the actual person behind it all.
Right.
I would consider myself the actual individual one, not Trump. But I didn't, believe in the whole MAGA thing. I knew Trump's negative qualities, and I put him in office because of that. I wanted a lot of old legislation to be destroyed. Legislation that protects, corrupt, vile hospital directors who kill off people for the sake of profit. That sort of thing. This all leads into this. What made this work, what made everything successful, what made everything so good is that very group study scene portrays and actually sets the table to explain the secular demographic that would be in years to come. And this is where things get kind of funny. There's a lot of famous names in this, including old pictures of Donald Trump and a picture of Alex fucking Mean God Jones of InfoWars.
Mean God Jones.
Have you seen that remix? Where he's like, I hate it when they put chemicals in the water to turn the freaking frogs gay. Place point. That's the guy you need to search up for that meme, because it's the most brilliant fucking remix ever. I don't care about whether his political beliefs, but he's so damn funny, he got over with me organically.
Right.
So, in the end, this whole group study scene was a microcosm to frame exactly how the corrupt populace thinks. So, in that sense, Trump is the current Trump year is exactly what the populace needs. They need both the corrupt populace and the corrupt Congress people needed a person who is a counterbalance, an inarticulate, idiotic, loose cannon.
Right.
Yet at the same time, this guy is exactly a method to the madness. That's where Trump. Actually, you know what? You could portray Trump in the same light as Cheney in the movie.
Right.
He's clearly got. While he does have private life issues with extramarital affairs, it's not really a bad thing. Extramarital affairs are a thing. But at the same time, this was before his presidency, so doing this is a little suspect. I mean, did he pay off Stormy Daniels? I believe wholeheartedly. But this was before his election. And the idea that because it's the same year that he paid her off to influence the election is a leap of logic.
Right.
My point being is simple. He's got personal life issues. We all do. And I think both Cheney and Trump handled that well. Here's the thing. Here's what really makes both Cheney and Trump really magnanimous. No, that's not the word. Enigmatic. There's the word I'm looking for. Makes them both really enigmatic. For Cheney, at the end, he's portrayed as this cold-blooded hero, which is kind of an interesting concept because you can compare the same to Trump. Because you can clearly tell he's trying. He loves the people. If he didn't care for the American people, let's face it, if he didn't care for the American people, he wouldn't be the most socially active president in our history. I've never seen a president ever entirely go out of his way to talk with his citizens, even further, have citizen priority on Twitter for people who hate him. You have to literally go through several sections of show more replies to find positive stuff.
Right.
And even then, some of those are mixed reviews. To constantly be shown hatred and disheartening statements, and to be hated universally, and he still puts in that effort to show to the American people he loves them enough that despite their hatred, he will gladly still communicate with you on Twitter. No other president has done that. Everyone else has been so private and so secluded within the shadows that it just seems a bit odd. I would consider him that same sort of cold-blooded hero. Question, what do you think? What do you think in my comparisons?
I don't know if I would consider Trump the cold-blooded hero as much as I would consider him... Cheney, I totally agree with what you said about him being a cold-blooded hero. When it comes to Trump, I think Trump is more of not a victim of circumstance, but he's how do I put it? He's been put in this position, and I think it's
by me, by the way.
Yeah, and I think that him being here it's the Great Awakening. It's awaking everyone up to the whole system that we have. Now everyone pays attention to politics.
Ooh.
You know?
So you're saying that woke applies more to both sides instead of just the left.
Right, absolutely. It's as an entire country, everyone is invested now.
Yeah.
Whether you're left, whether you're right.
Whether you love them, whether you hate
love
them.
whether you hate them. Everyone is more knowledgeable now about what's going on.
Questionable.
Okay,
I mean,
there's a lot of disinformation out there too.
There's
more interest, more intrigue.
I'll put it this way: the information superhighway makes it very easy to get even the smallest bits of political information. But I'm not gonna lie, I get really tired of people. I don't even know if they're purposely omitting or if this is just ignorance on their part. But I can just tell the difference between an actual intelligent, intellectual person in politics and what I call 15-minute politicians, where people who do 15-minute bits of research, and then they come and step to a guy who's been doing this for 18 years.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell the dichotomy between who's good and who's bad.
For sure, yeah. But I think at the same time, it's just raising awareness of what's going on, and I think overall, I think that's a good thing. Even if, a lot of people are misguided and don't... I see, it's a double-edged sword, because at the same time, it's good that people are more aware and people are paying attention to what's going on. But at the same time, people are also, I feel like, and I haven't been paying attention to this stuff as long as you have, David, but I feel like people are becoming more radicalized. I feel like maybe more so now than ever, people are either hardcore right or hardcore left, and they don't want to talk to the other person. Yeah,
and considering how Patreon's going absolutely apeshit and decrying like all the people who leave over Sargon of Akkad's banning.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense because it wasn't even on their platform, and they support Antifa. You can clearly tell there's a political bias. But getting back to the, you've put it in a very large picture. Here's the thing. I do agree that people getting involved politically is a wonderful thing.
Right.
I think it is a civic duty of every citizen. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I would love a world where everyone is on the level of political knowledge that I'm on.
Right.
Here's the thing. I don't mean to wank myself too much, but I'm at a point where I'm superior to Pelosi and Schumer.
Right.
And I haven't even completed college. I've just done so much independent work and so much, psychological manipulation, demographic, manipulation, turning communities against each other,
Right.
that it's just highly advanced
So
my skill level.
is that so your skill level is highly advanced? Could you potentially use your powers for evil?
I mean, depends on what you define as evil.
And that gets back to where everyone has access now to be able to gain information. We're a lazy society for the most part. Not everyone wants to know this knowledge, It's becoming more and more. But not everyone wants to know the stuff you know and wants to have the skills that you have. But in the wrong hands, could be very bad if people had all the knowledge that you contain. And,
I don't know.
You don't know?
Here's if we're going by like the idea of everyone thinking like me, and on that notion, I think
not even thinking like you, but just knowing everything you know. And
the idea
skills.
behind what I'm saying is the perspective I have, because my goals, while filled with anger, with pain, with misery, at the same time, it builds up my sense of personal justice and the fact that, the stuff I went through, I don't want neither my old man nor anyone else I want them to go through.
Yeah.
So if everyone was thinking on the same tier as me, I think that would just come with the package. I think that it can be used for evil, but I think that it stops being an issue in the wrong hands if they're on that same level. Because coming with a certain amount of knowledge comes with a certain amount of jadedness and personal emotional fatigue. And so when you see all of this going on, when you see this harshness, it becomes disheartening.
Right.
And honestly, the cool thing about Vice, circling back after commentating on the corrupt populace,
Yeah.
what really puts everything into perspective is that soliloquy from Dick Cheney. He said, there's a lot of people who vilify me, people who hate me and want me to apologize. I won't.
Yeah.
I will not kiss the monsters on the cheek.
Yeah.
He said, I will not hesitate to, hurt and kill these monsters. Yeah. So you and your people, you and your family, you and your loved ones can sleep in. I will not apologize for the things I've done.
Right.
I will not apologize for the peace of mind you can have at night. And this is what we're referring to when I say the cold-blooded hero trope, or sub-trope. Because he's clearly not repentant for the evils he's committed. Because why should he?
And I don't think he necessarily sees them as evils.
Well, yeah. I mean, if the idea is the ends justify the means.
Right.
Which is inherently either both sociopathic and psychopathic. But is it technically wrong? What do you think? Do you think it's technically?
I don't think it's wrong. If the ends justify the means,
I mean,
you have to do things in life sometimes that are gonna, you're gonna do things that are gonna affect others in a negative way in the long run.
And that is actually another little sub-narrative that goes along with it. The entire theme is what people can do to affect others and how power can either help or hurt others.
Yeah.
They had scenes like the Iraq War and Cambodia and all this other stuff. And that was another current, is that, you have to, this is a very dirty, animalistic, Darwinistic world, even in human society.
Yeah, it kind of showed that, it kind of made it seem like Cheney learned his ways from Rumsfeld. You know what I mean? It kind of seemed like when he first started working for Rumsfeld.
I think Rumsfeld took a diamond in the rough and refined it.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think for me it seemed like.
Well, it seemed like
Cheney started out kind of looking up to Rumsfeld and kind of figuring out how the game was played. And then he figured out how to play it better. And he figured out how to be a little more vicious.
Yeah.
And a little more tactile.
That's why I was saying, he's clearly got a good tactical mind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Rumsfeld turned a diamond from the rough into a polished diamond. Yeah. And eventually Cheney surpassed him in every possible way.
Yeah, he did.
That's another sub-narrative that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Changing of the guard.
Yeah. It is, but overall, it is just a really, I thought, very good movie. I thought
in the end, Cheney's actions, in my opinion, are the ultimate check and balance within the same branch.
What is?
Cheney's role as vice president.
Oh, yeah.
It was a new way of checks and balances and having more executive control, but at the same time, redefines and creates a new balance with the president.
Right.
Because the president is still restricted by...
You were in the bathroom when sorry to interrupt, but you were in the bathroom, I think, when it brought up the point where he was talking to that Asian lawyer. What was his name? I forget his name. But he was talking to him.
That was a guy about waterboarding.
Right. But they were talking to him. Maybe it was with someone else. But they were talking with him, and they said that the vice president is the deciding vote if there's a split.
Yeah.
Right? So they said that the vice president technically is part of the executive branch and part of the legislative branch. And he said, but if you're part of both, you're technically not a part of either. And so that's where they were able. I don't think you were there for that part.
I'm not saying.
So they basically were.
I wasn't there from that part, but I don't think that technically is coherent.
Right, it doesn't really make sense, but that's what the lawyer was saying, and he said that, so basically he was explaining to Cheney ways he could do these things and, do all these things that he wanted to get done with really, in the shadows, basically.
Yo, want a couple Kit Kats?
Sure, love some.
Oh, crap.
I've never had the vanilla or white ones.
White chocolate. Sorry, I kind of fucked up on that.
That's fine.
Sorry, guys. We just got back from a movie, and the snacks were way too expensive.
Yeah, no one pays $12 for a candy bar in the movie.
Yeah, almost as expensive as the fucking movie ticket.
Yeah, no kidding.
We barely managed to get the matinee tickets.
Yeah.
We were off by 20 minutes. We barely made it.
What a racket that place is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's released on the same day as Aquaman.
Hey, bud.
It's released on the same day as Aquaman. So it's gonna be overlooked immensely. It's gonna be Vice is probably the better movie. I didn't watch Aquaman because I hate superhero movies, but I imagine they're just another superhero movie. And Vice is going to be. I think the most criminal part is that Vice is going to be incredibly overlooked.
Yeah, probably. Although, it goes back to what I said about everyone being into politics all of a sudden now.
Yeah.
The younger people. Maybe it will do better than we think.
I don't think so. I don't think I'll...
I'll make you a burger. You want one? Okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical.
Where are these from?
What?
Where are these from?
That is
Those
presents.
are presents.
I'm sure you got one too. Oh, you did? Yeah.
Hold on, what are you doing?
I have to cook for him.
Dude, the podcast isn't done.
You wait a few minutes? Okay.
But what really, what makes it's a good commentary, but overall, there's a few things that really fucked everything up. It was good commentary. It had a lot of wonderful scenes, and it portrayed a lot of different sides to the story. It was very down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But what really killed it for me was that ending scene. And it was that ending scene that took my score to a 7.5.
Right.
I'm a little bit picky though. So I'm very picky and selective of how I score things. So I don't necessarily think on my side that it's entirely free from bias.
Right.
So I'll pass it off to you.
The reason I'm not going to use that scene to affect the movie in my grading system, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Okay.
And
What's the reason?
The reason I'm not going to use that to knock it down is because it was after the credits. It was, and it didn't make sense. Whereas, because it went from, that was the study group from back in 2000, whatever, when they were trying to invade Iraq. And then it turned it to the same group of people, but it made it seem like it was modern day. So I think that was just Will Ferrell, probably.
Nah, he had to have his fingers all over that
which
shit.
David told me. I didn't even know that Will Ferrell was a writer on this. I had no idea.
I'm just gonna say fuck it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
No one knows whether it's my real name or my pseudonym, anyways.
Yeah.
As long as you don't use my last name, I don't care.
Right. But so, yeah, so it didn't make sense because it jumped time frames and it was the same people, and then so I'm just gonna take that for what it is and take it with a grain of salt and say that was just them trying to add some. It was them playing to the left, I think, a little bit, trying to add a little comedy in, but still at the same time,
it completely fell flat. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was.
It's
I
like
didn't like it, but
I don't think it was good. I personally think it was a drawback for me.
yeah.
Because it's just like you took the most aggrandized extremists and had them, fight. Here's the thing. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Attacking
I think the best part of that horrific or like that awkward ass scene was when the fucking generic redneck, Trump
who's wearing
Trump
a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey.
Oh god, I didn't even realize that, but that just earns extra points because I'm a Buccaneers guy. With that, yeah, I mean, that was the favorite part of that scene was when the fucking redneck guy beat the piss out of the libtard.
I'll agree to that.
Because that's the reality of it. Yeah. All these snobs think they're the ones with the power, but they're never willing to actually get their hands dirty.
Right.
They're only forced to do so when a superior predator threatens their lifestyle and threatens their security.
Right.
But here's the thing. I put him in that for that very concept. I turned a nation of bourgeois pseudo-virtue signalers to a free-for-all jungle. Here's the thing. When I put Trump in office, I had a few ideas from it. A, riots were going to happen. B, government shutdown was going to happen. C, laws and regulations are going to be incredibly slashed. B, or fourth, the economy. The economy has been a wild ride with Trump. There have been immense successes and immense failures. Here's the thing. I'm not going to credit Obama for any of it. Mm-hmm. Overall, Obama was decaying. It was a middle status quo. With Trump, it's ups and downs. So, I'm going to, say he's done some failures, but he's also done the successes. And I don't think Obama can take credit for the economy. Think about it. Right. Trillions of dollars for the Affordable Care Act. A Care Act, mind you, that made buying healthcare essential for a company. And for the dorm I live in, each person who helps run it has to be bought healthcare. Keep in mind, though, that this business that I'm talking about, the dorm that is run, the dude's a private owner. He's not a guy who makes a bunch of fucking money off of it. Oftentimes, any extra profits he does, he just puts right back into the company. Buys us new fucking dishwashers, buys us new fridges, buys us more food, buys us clothes. The dude is fucking awesome. He could be like a lot of the abusive home places out there, but instead dedicates his time, his energy, his effort to making our lives the best they can possibly be. And now, because of that Affordable Care Act, these kinds of small private businesses suffered immensely. In my opinion, it doesn't matter if you have the Affordable Care Act or if you have Trump Care, it doesn't matter. Here's the thing, you can have either program, you can have either spending, we'll play all those semantic games of whether it was Trump or Obama for the economy, but what the truth of the matter is not the fucking healthcare, it's the insurance rates. What we need to worry about in that regard is the insurance rates. We can't fix the economy until after we fix the corrupt insurance.
Right. I think that I want to vote for Dick Cheney in 2020.
I don't think he's going to make it to that, but they said it was only 10 years. Yeah. So unless he gets more heart transplants,
he's going to need another heart.
I don't think he's going to fucking make it.
That guy.
I don't even know if he's still alive or not. I could have sworn he was like one of the people announced to be dead. Here's the thing. I don't think... I'm a weird guy. I support the MAGA group, but I don't think both sides are void of value. I don't think Trump is this beautiful god emperor who can do no wrong. I think his trade war is a good idea in theory, not in execution, Kyle. Mr. Bastard who questions the trade war. Sorry, off on a tangent. My buddy is a pro-military guy, so he also has a lot of understanding of military and business. But he gives me crap all the time for the trade war. But don't do that.
This is our friend Jim.
It's our little pupper. A pupper who was basically belonged to a former owner who just ditched us and then dated a druggy girl. Like a numpty. Anyways, back on back of topic. You know, I'm not going to say Trump is one of the worst, and I'm not going to say Trump is one of the best. I think he's maybe a top 25. I like what he's done with a lot of stuff, but I don't like some of the things he does with individual liberties, like Article 9. We've already got enough political tension with, you know, the transgender community and human sexuality and all these other prevalent issues that I think that stirring the pot is not the best idea. I put him in office because of several things. I wanted to teach people that they are not virtuous. They are scum of the scum. You know, we have good attributes. Everyone has good attributes, but they're vastly overshadowed by the negative. Human nature is to forget the positive and remember the negative. What confuses me is this polarized fight, because they're clearly brothers and sisters who both want good for their country in different ways. And here's the thing: the conservatives are the business, the left are the humanitarians. Our country is so fucked up not because of presidents, but because the balance in order have completely derailed. Not only are the conservatives now the business, but they've been so forced by this unnecessary violence and hit pieces that they've had to take on the burden of both. The thing that really intrigues me about the left, and this is sort of alluded to in the movie, because this, like I said before, the social study group kind of sets the table, is that the left has become so afraid of their own shadows they can no longer function. I don't think that they're bad people at all. I think that while some of the extreme libtards are bad people who are Machiavellian in nature, most of them are people who are afraid and have bought into a hype machine. You know what I mean? Mass hysteria is the greatest weakness humanity as a society has. But because of this hysteria, no one's been giving anyone any sort of chance or credit.
Yeah.
I think that if the population as a whole even bothered to get over their ego, say, you know what, I may not like the dude, but I'll give, for the sake of our country, I'll give him a shot. I may not agree with everything, but you don't have to agree with everything the president does to support him. I don't agree with a lot of things he does.
Right.
But,
you don't have to hate him on everything or support him on everything. You can look at individual things and pick and choose what you support and what you don't. That's what I don't get.
And in the end, that's what the final scene before the end credits really signifies. Because clearly, the dude's a scumbag. But then, at the end of the soliloquy, it puts it all into perspective. We are not perfect. We are people who will do whatever it takes.
Right.
You have to. That's how this world works. Right. But I get really fixated on these kinds of political movies because they're interesting. Yeah. Even the most liberal biased ones, like Michael Moore, have some interesting ideas to put to the table. I am not truly aligned. I have no such thing as an allegiance. My goal, the only allegiance to anything I have is to my late old man. That's the person who mattered to me most.
Well,
Promises
should always come before politics, too.
And that's actually the heartwarming message behind the movie too.
Right, yeah.
He put his own family over his politics.
Right.
That was what surprised me the most of this movie. That was the sub-narrative that caught me completely off guard.
Yeah.
Because and I guarantee you it caught everyone else off guard too. Because I guarantee you, that while I didn't come into it hating Cheney, I guarantee you that 98% of the viewers came into it hating Cheney. And I guarantee you at least 60% left thinking, oh, I didn't expect this out of him.
Right.
And if
They
it,
brought, you know what those 60% is probably saying?
hmm.
That part was made up. That part was made up.
No,
Probably.
I think that's the other, like, 38%.
Yeah, something like that.
I think the
But
60% were actually moved by that.
Right. Yeah,
Which I was part of that.
hopefully.
Even if I'm not part of that 98%, I was still moved by it.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
it subverted our expectations.
Right.
Because, you know, when you see someone political and you see so much propaganda and how it paints these people as terrible people, you come in with an expectation.
Yeah, you start to believe it.
And when you subvert the expectation, you start to really bring intrigue. This movie I underestimated it. I rarely underestimate, you know, political movies. I generally am accurate, but this was a movie that surprised me.
I made it so far.
This is a really good movie.
So for me, it's a 7.5. For my guest today, it's an 8.5. I'm very appreciative of it. Yes, you know, I may be known as One Man Cast, but you know, my name, unfortunately, is I will give only my first name. It's David. Sorry for not telling you guys this for a long time. I did it for the sake of anonymity.
David actually wanted to play some
But unfortunately, you know, since times are changing and YouTube pisses me the fuck off. Why not? My first name's...
Fuck YouTube.
Yeah, right. Fuck YouTube.
Yeah.
Seriously. If you're not going to monetize my channel, I'm just going to stop giving any fucks.
Yeah. If you've reached the requirements to be monetized and you're still not going to do it, then what are we doing? Fuck YouTube.
Here's the thing. One of the things that really boils my blood. Sorry for the impolite behavior. What really boils my blood.
Sorry, children. I know this is a family show.
It has nothing to do with family show. It's just general manners. But I get your joke.
Alex Jones for those.
Yeah, he was, which was not bad actually. That was a pretty spot on impression. The only time I can ever really impersonate him properly is when I talk about goblins. Because here's the thing, my buddy loves Final Fantasy 15. Whenever I see him play and fight goblins, I'm like trying to do my inner accent. He's like, being bad with goblins, gonna have sex with goblins, gonna make love to them goblins. You know, that sort of thing.
Really? Come on now.
I do that every time. This is not new. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry for not telling you my name, but I'm starting to give so little fucks, and honestly, you never know. My real name could never mean anything. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's not even David.
Yeah. I mean, I operate under like 12 different pseudonyms.
Right. Exactly.
Like variations of Murdoch, variations of Alvarez.
I wanted to.
I could see you as an Alvarez.
And I downloaded
My general persona that I think of myself as is one of those like evil businessman politicians, or like very
Dick Cheney.
or more like slick devil's advocate kind of cartel guy.
Okay, I'm you know the movie Swordfish.
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, you're like a computer hacker or something.
I'm not a computer hacker. That's my buddy Kyle.
Right,
over there.
that's our friend.
I'm a guy who.
Don't use my real name.
Here's the thing. I know people don't believe in his ability to set computers on fire, but I guarantee you if you asked him to do a video on it, I'm pretty sure he could explain it all to you.
Really?
Yeah, he's
knows
got...
how to set computers on fire?
Yeah.
You just shut off the fans and overload the CPU.
See, the people I know...
Certain software in your computer.
Dude, you're...
He's about as god tier in electronics as I am god tier.
CIA is going to be knocking on our doors soon.
I mean, he's got connections to that already, and he's got a connection to people who run a satellite. That's the only reason why I can never even get online during this fucking this modem blackout. It's because he has access to a fucking satellite. Sure, he has to...
Decommission. What do you want from me?
It's still not legal.
It is legal.
To use it to hack a decommissioned satellite. You got in trouble for not asking for day passes.
It was because you're supposed to pay for it, and he gave us a pass without having to pay for it. That's why I got in trouble.
Well, you shouldn't have gotten in trouble for that. but that's still technically not legal. Anyways, my point being is that no matter who may doubt him, all you have to do is ask him to make a video on it, have him explain detail by detail, and I'm guaranteeing you a lot of the
Pretty
computer.
much just did.
Well, even more detail than you gave away.
All right, folks. I'm gonna let David wrap this up. It was nice talking with you, David.
Well, you have to press the stop recording button.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah. Well, we're doing a dual camera discussion.
That's cool.
Anyways, I gave the movie a 7.5. I gave a very lengthy explanation along with a bunch of non sequiturs.
Right.
But I kind of connected the non sequiturs to my point. So, this is my subjective score. I don't think I can completely keep myself objective in a political movie.
Very difficult.
But there's a lot of things that really killed it for me. Bad, shoehorned in endings, irrelevant imagery, bad sound cuts, certain bad sound directions.
Too loud a few times.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily loud.
I want to believe that's on the movie theater fault, but
Right.
it might not be.
Yeah.
I'm kind of skeptical because I could tell that they're putting it on full blast so everyone can hear it.
Right.
So maybe if we watch it on a television like a normal house,
Right.
we might be able to adjust it. It might not be too bad,
Right.
but I felt like at certain parts I was going to go deaf.
Yeah.
I was going to go deaf.
Yeah. It was intense.
And the jump cuts were a little questionable, but in my opinion, it's got incredible direction, really well done writing. Excluding sans the whole ending thing, post-ending credits. There's so much that was done well that I was willing. That all my stuff are nitpicks. Those nitpicks netted me down to 7.5 out of 10. I think it's still a very great movie, but they had an opportunity to make like a classic out of it. It was so close. If they didn't add in that post cutscene, it would have been almost perfect.
It's going to be interesting to see what reviews and what the critics say, and if any awards are handed out.
I don't think they're going to get any awards. I think they're going to overlook them.
I'll just climb the wall.
We'll have to do a follow-up after
And
the
so, do you have any wrap-ups for your 8.5 score?
8.5, I think the story was factual and it was good, and the reason that I give it an 8.5, the main reason, was probably just the way they casted the characters.
Yeah, they did a solid.
Christian Bale gaining 100 pounds to play Cheney, and
I would have believed it even if it was a fat suit.
yeah, exactly. And then Rumsfeld, Steve Carell looked exactly like Rumsfeld. Bush talked out of the side of his mouth and said acted like he was from Texas, just like Bush does.
I mean, I thought that was a real Colin Powell in that.
Right, I know. When it kept doing the footage to make it look like it was the real thing,
It looked exactly.
it looked a lot like
It was so brilliant.
Colin Powell.
I don't know, but whomever did needs a fucking raise.
I want to say it was Tyler Perry.
I don't buy that. I don't think Tyler Perry can nail that. But whomever
Maybe it was.
Whomever did it needs a fucking raise. That was
Tyler Perry.
It was? Are you serious?
Yeah. Yep.
Dude!
How Tyler Perry got Colin Powell.
I normally don't like the dude.
Yeah.
His comedy is terrible.
Right.
But he's fucking Colin Powell? Are you serious?
Yeah. I don't even know where they're camera.
That is brilliant!
Homeboy pulled it off.
Fuck, man, that is awesome.
Yeah, that makes it even better. Now is it an 8.5 or is it still
No,
7.5?
it's still impressive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use a singular character to...
Right.
Oh,
No.
quick question before we wrap things up.
Yeah.
Favorite serious character, favorite comedy character?
Favorite serious character was without a doubt Cheney.
Okay.
Just because he was masterful. And then, favorite comedy character? Oh, that's a tough one. I'd say probably Rumsfeld. Steve Carell did a good job being funny. The scene where, I can't even remember what was said, but where Rumsfeld just laughs in his face and then goes in his office and shuts the door and just keeps laughing.
what do we believe? And he's just laughing his ass off.
Where young Cheney says, well, what do we believe in? And then Rumsfeld, what do we believe in? just goes in his door, shuts the door,
And you can still hear him laughing.
laughing. Like, it was a stereotypical scene, but just the way it was acted out, I thought was really good.
Here's where I'm gonna diverge from you, because both serious and funny actors, or funny characters, I'm gonna differ from you. You know what really sold me on his entire authoritarian power? Cheney's lawyer. He was a very big part.
Yeah.
He was the guy who helped Cheney build the entire staffing.
Right.
And plan the strategy to
Yeah.
where they actually hold the power and the keys to the kingdom.
That's true, yeah.
Like, I know people are going, like, people who watch this are going to overlook the dude, but he's slickly dressed. He's very smart. He's the guy who enabled Cheney to move forward with the plan for the equitary executive theory.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, he's undersold. I get the Cheney rule. That I do understand it. That would be the standard opinion, I think.
Yeah.
But for me, I love minor details, and I love the level of detail for it. And I feel like the dude who was his lawyer was super underrated.
Super good. Yeah,
Like,
he was good, too.
It was fascinating. You know, Colin Powell obviously gets a shout out. Obviously, not my favorite, not your favorite either. But he sold it.
Good. Yeah.
He sold the urgency.
And another one, you get some female diversity in there. Cheney's wife did a good job. I felt like I don't know what Cheney's wife looks like, so I can't go off that.
Neither do I.
But just the character that she played, she seemed like she was a
She was compelling.
feisty woman. And
Like, here's the thing. I think a lot of feminazis are going to be pissed by the way I say this. Maybe not. But I liked her for a lot of reasons.
Right.
She displayed how you can be a strong woman while still being in her traditional role.
Got it.
Like, her entire narrative focus is escaping the abusive lifestyle, and that is a very compelling concept for anybody.
Right.
You know, if you're in a home where the father is abusive, oh, and by the way, ends up killing his wife.
Yeah.
Oh man,
we didn't even touch on that.
that was fucked up.
I wonder if that part's true or if that's part's
I think
exaggeration.
that might actually be true, but this is where the humanitarian part really sells itself to me. Because he was trying to be this nice, cool grandfather, but he's like drunk and fucked up in the head. And clearly Dick Cheney knows he killed, you know, his wife's mother.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't you ever come near my wife or kids ever again. He didn't do it angrily. He didn't do it in a sad way. He did it in the most cold-blooded, I will kill you without being enraged fashion.
Right.
How that small narrative sub-act of a strong, confident woman trying to escape, the fact that she had this compelling sub-narrative while still being factually accurate. Here's the thing, you can show like progressive characters without shoving it in your face with like a bunch of, you know, remake characters from, you know, Marvel movies. You can still show a character with nuance and show her being progressive while still being accurate within the role. And I think I think that's a huge narrative sub-arc to painting Cheney as this. Like, there's two separate aspects of his personal life that really sells it. His wife and his kids.
Right.
His wife, you could clearly tell, was in an abusive home, and she was so sick of it and pissed off because no matter how much education she had, societal times forced her to go with the norm.
Right.
And she said to Cheney, I cannot live in a trailer with 10 kids and be in the same exact situation.
Right.
Either you shape up or I leave you.
Yeah. I like how she said, there's at least 10 men and 3 professors at the college.
Oh God, I forgot about that. That was perfect too. God, I love that.
I like that part.
And see, you can show anger, aggression, and humanism without having to flaunt tradition.
Right.
You can still be a progressive character and not be contradicted by society.
Exactly.
I think that a lot of people who, like, I think even the leftist SJWs can like this woman character. Because despite her traditional role in society, she's a commentary.
Right.
She is a perfect commentary. A commentary that anyone on any side can empathize with. If you've ever been in an abusive home or an abusive situation, you can empathize.
Yeah.
And the fact she was so well executed, and, you know, the fact that behind every great man is a great woman. You know, it's a cliche trope, but it was executed to perfection.
Right.
Because she's like, I don't want to be in this sort of situation anymore. And because of the times, which, you know, if you're me, you know, a lot of people were just stuck in these times. Don't try to stop it. If you're, you know, trying, you know, I'm the kind of person who is not connected with humanity or society at all. I have a situation where I am not required to work. I can literally live out the rest of my life forever without having to connect with society. I don't have to care what others think. I can do whatever I want whenever I want. By the way, ladies, I'm looking. And in the end, you can be compelling without having to flaunt history. Battlefield 5, EA, DICE, take note. You can still have a compelling story. You don't have to make a woman the front lines to be a compelling female character. You can portray women as heroes in their support units, which is historically accurate. You can literally do everything else. You can be as progressive as you want, and you would take away any validity to the argument if you just put them in the historically accurate role while portraying a compelling story within support.
Right.
You don't have to overtly shove it in your face. You can still still portray a progressive story and not be partisan. And I think this movie really sells you on it. It's that and the fact that one of his daughters was a lesbian. Now, I'm a little bit biased towards lesbians, but I am not a progressive or SJW. I am not a crook. Oh, by the way, there's that Reagan thing that they did a commentary for. And you can do that. See, you can do that. Good writers know nuance. Nuance is what sells you on these characters that may be compelling outside of their roles in reality.
Right.
So there's so many small narrative sub-arcs, subplots, and all this other stuff that really builds well.
Would you recommend others go see this movie?
You know, despite my nitpicks, they're not nitpicks most people would either know or care about, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree too. I think most people would find some enjoyment out of this movie.
Yeah, I think that if you care even remotely for politics,
Yeah.
or you're curious about Cheney, or you just want to satisfy your hate boner,
Yeah.
you'll still enjoy it
Yeah.
because you can still claim that through his professional life he's a scumbag,
Right.
or at least through 98% of the movie,
Right.
and then learn something new about him.
Yeah.
Widen your perspective, see why, the motives, why he may do these horrendous things. Because if you want to oversimplify the entire movie into one word, it's protect. Is that a fair oversimplification?
That is very fair.
Because entirely
Family, country, everything. You're right. That's a good.
protect is the theme.
That's a good summary.
It was from start to finish. That was the oversimplified concept, and it was brilliantly written. Sans the last scene, but that last scene was just Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was entirely about protect until that scene was very well done. You will get enjoyment out of the humor. You will get enjoyment out of the new perspective. You will get validation for your hate boner for Cheney if you've got a hate boner. You will leave satisfied because you guys are probably not as nitpicky as I am. By the way, I'm still fucking blown away by the fact that Tyler Perry actually did something right in acting.
Good job, Tyler Perry.
We seriously hate you.
David approved.
We seriously hate you, but good job on the most compelling
Good work.
acting job I've ever seen.
Yeah. Didn't even know it was you. That's how good you were.
Yeah, we thought it was actually the real Colin Powell.
Yeah.
Like, that was just a very good detail in general.
Very good.
So, 7.5 out of me, 8.5 for my guest here. But we both say we recommend you watching it if you even remotely care about any facet at all. You can be an SJW and you leave satisfied. You can be a right wing and leave satisfied. You can be entirely hate boner for Dick Cheney and leave satisfied. While there's no the thing that makes this movie perfect for any audience is the versatility. Versatility And the fact that it can appeal to both sides, all sides of the spectrum, without being overtly political. It stuck, like, other than the comedy, it stuck true to what it should do, and that it is factual documentary.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit of a mockumentary, it still worked.
Right.
So, yeah, we both recommend it despite our varying scores.
Absolutely.
So, thank you guys for watching. Fuck YouTube,
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
so tired of their crap.
Fuck YouTube.
I'm just going to start doing these podcasts again because I would love to just constantly have differing, contrasting views. I might have him more on as a guest. We can talk about like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson.
Oh,
albeit that those political podcasts will be on Uno Politics.
Uno Politics. All right.
So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to One Man Cast if you enjoyed this movie review, even if you're not a movie guy and you enjoyed just us running our fucking mouths. Like the video. Consider subscribing if you are watching this for the first time and new. I'm going to be taking a more adult bro approach. What the fuck are you doing?
Signing One Man Cast in sign language for all of our deaf listeners.
You know what? I thank you for that. That is a level of class I didn't think of. Subscribe if you are new. Click the bell if you have not yet for more of my content. Recommend me guests you think I would love to work with online. Check out my Discord server. I'm starting to alter my Discord server where all of the subsets of my entire new setup is being put because I'm starting to prioritize other channels as well. Because of fuck YouTube, I'm going to find any fucking means to make money. Donate to my Streamlabs if you really want me to continue my main channel because that is the only way I'm going to make money on this main channel. Because YouTube fucked me over big time. They made me believe that. Oh, I caught it with my legs, motherfucker. Anyways, leg catching, lovely. That's a way to go with that. Anyways, with that, also comment in the comment section if you've seen Vice alongside me. If you
I didn't catch it.
If you watched the movie either yesterday or the day before, if you liked it yesterday or the day before, like we did tonight, comment in the comment section. Sorry if you were spoilers. We don't mean to spoil you. We did give a thing at the beginning. We did warn you. I'm gonna work and see if I can get like a 6-second intro because I kind of want a cool intro for this podcast. Cool. At the same time, comment in the comments section. Check me out on Twitch. I might start working on my Twitch channel because they are exclusively or at least on the surface a gaming site. So since I stream to multiple sites, maybe we can start directing to Twitch so that I can get that 3 person per hour average. Because I might just start doing that.